Hey everybody, Tutoring Wizard here. So, we are going to begin today talking about counting, as promised. Now, some of you may be thinking and feeling, what the heck? Counting is simple enough that how is this even going to warrant a review? What are we going to review? Got my DoorDash going. Sorry about that. What are we even going to review? It seems unbelievably simple. But that's actually a relief because my claim to you is that this is the foundation of pretty much everything else that we do in mathematics up through calculus. So if this is very simple, all of it should be very simple. So this is good news. Now, when people think about counting, usually we're going to think about counting by ones, right? The old 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. But this is not the only way to count. It's a good, reliable way to count. It'll get you wherever you need to count to eventually. But we can also count by twos. We could count up, all right, 0, comma 2, comma 4, comma 6, and so on. We could count by threes. 0, 3, 6, 9, and so on. We could count by any number. 4s, 5s, 6s, 27s, millions, whatever. We can count by anything. And when you start to think about counting by in increments that are larger than 1, we start to see that, okay, maybe counting can be a little bit of a mental task to do if we count by larger and count by 13s or count by, it's all iterations of counting 1 through 9s. So that's what we're going to be practicing, actually, is just counting our 1s through 9s. And we've got our 1s, 2s, and 3s up here, but we could count by 8s, right? 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, so on and so forth. And really, the advantage to doing things this way is that when we count when we count in increments that are larger than 1, we're actually memorizing all of the possible targets for multiplication. Because if I do, say, 8 times 4, well, how do I compute 8 times 4? I could either count up by 4 8 times and go 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32. I can go, all right, 4 times 8 is 32. Or, pardon me, I could count up by 8 4 times. And I could go 8, 16, 24, 32. 8 times 4 is 32. So really, we see immediately that multiplication is sort of just counting, but in increments that are larger than 1. And so that's the first thing that I'm going to have everybody practicing is, when you're driving around in your car or when you're bored or whatever it is, try practicing counting by some increment larger than 1. Count up by 7s or whatever it is. And get all the way up to a multiplication by 10. So if it was 7s, count all the way up to 70. So it'd be 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49, 56, 63, 70. And you have just implicitly practiced 7 times all numbers 1 through 9, just by counting up by 7s. And repeating this process enough times, this is ultimately how multiplication becomes a rote process that people can just do in their heads without thinking about it, is because they have implicitly counted up to these numbers, umpteen times in their heads. And it just becomes something that feels like muscle memory. That's just in there, when really it is just rote memorization. So that's going to be the first step in this pyramid we're building towards calculus, is just to practice counting by increments larger than 1, or between 1 and 10. Do that, and we will proceed to our next step shortly.